Eli Lilly released this one last week. Positive phase 1 of 2 clinical trial data for an investigational gene therapy for genetic hearing loss. So what the hell is this about? Summary paragraph at the top, hearing restoration in the initial study participant, the first to receive gene therapy in the United States for a genetically caused hearing loss. Cool, let's check this one out. So the study's individual is an 11-year-old boy from Morocco. He was born deaf, hasn't heard shit his entire life, hasn't heard conversation, hasn't heard music, hasn't heard anything since he's been born. So the medical treatment under test, gene therapy, super young medical treatment. It's one that's not being practiced too much yet, very much more so in the research phase at this point now. To understand gene therapy more, let's actually go back to the patient. Dive into things just a little bit here to understand a little bit more. The patient's deafness is genetic, meaning he got it from his mom and dad, inherited it. So, in other words, it's hardwired into his DNA. You remember DNA, that double helix shaped wrap in the form of chromosomes existing in the nucleus of all the trillions of different cells we have in our body with blueprints to do literally everything? His deafness is sourced down to his DNA. It's sourced down to one pair of chromosomes in one arm branch of that chromosome, and then one just small segment of DNA within that arm, and the tiny problem that exists within that segment. And with one type of cell in our inner ear, it's where the problem comes out. It's called an OTOF gene mutation. OTOF gene, just referring to the segment of the DNA, and then the mutation is the one tiny problem that exists in that segment. That single mutation causes the inability to produce one type of protein in that inner ear. And without that protein, deafness. Inside that one specific type of cell in the inner ear, this protein brings information about sound from the specific cell within the inner ear to neurons that then get fired up to the brain, which then the brain receives that information and perceives it as what we hear as sound. Literally, let's look at this diagram here. That green blob in the inner hair cell, that's the nucleus where the DNA with the mutation lives. Those hair-looking things on the top, those move in the presence of sound waves. When they move, that creates chemical reactions within the inner hair cell that tells the protein, which is the Otoferlin, to get moving. And what that moving is bringing the information in the form of those little dots, which are neurotransmitters, to the neurons that then get fired up to the brain. But without that protein, Otoferlin, no release of information. No release of information, no sound. Deafness. So what's the gene therapy? Well, the gene therapy is delivering healthy OTOF genes directly to the cells of the inner ear. And then with these healthy OTOF genes, the cells can produce the Otoferlin. And then with the Otoferlin, the information can be released to the brain. And then with that information, the sounds can be heard. Eli Lilly reports full hearing for the child, going from complete deafness from birth to full hearing capabilities. Now, this ain't the first treatment for hearing loss or deafness. Not close. Hearing aids have been around for a long time. But for this specific condition, hearing aids don't help. It doesn't matter how loud the sound is, which hearing aids do. They just make sounds louder. No Otoferlin, no sound. These are incredible. These are literally mechanical ears that have microphones that pick up sounds and then transmit those sounds into electrical signals that fire directly into the neurons that go up to the brain, hence artificially producing an ear, which is incredible mechanical and electrical engineering. But the solution is further away from the source of the problem or condition that a patient will have. It's replacing the faulty ear rather than fixing it. It's coping the problem rather than healing it. Because it's not as natural as a normal ear, it lacks the depth of normal sound perception. It's been described as being able to hear music but missing the rhythm, having the ability to hear words again but missing the certain subtleties of tone that exist within speech. And that's where gene therapy is amazing. It attacks problems at the root. It's attacking it at the source of the issue. It's biological engineering. Lastly, it's important to say that Eli Lilly isn't the only one that's looking at gene therapy for this specific condition of deafness. A US-based company, Regeneron, reported 4 months ago that they had positive results. Fudan University in China also published results last week of 5 successful trials they conducted using this gene therapy solution. It's a long way to go, but it's a big win for gene therapy overall. And it's a very big win for restoring as close to natural as you can get hearing for individuals with this rare genetic condition.
我给大家示范一下啊。那如果示范的话呢，就不能戴耳蜗，不然他这边也能听得到。那现在我就把耳蜗拿掉了，啊，不能让他看到嘴巴，只能让他听啊。听到声音了吗？
听到了。
我的声音大不大？
大。中等。
中等啊。今天星期几？
星期六。
星期六啊。你去上海好玩吗？
好玩。
你玩了什么？
玩了